Thank you.
Thank you for this grandiose introduction of my tiny position as the president, but I work as director of Academic Writing Center at MESIS, and I'm director of Language Training and Testing Center at Pistech, and this is my side work, the Association of Academic Writing Experts. I hope this is not going to be a lecture, it's going to be a seminar, and in fact that will be a workshop, and I want you to be very active because you will do lots and lots and lots of different activities, and this is some kind of hands-on experience that you are going to acquire. I'm not going to tell you something that you probably do not know. Yeah, I'm sure you know a lot, but probably you will master some of your skills, probably you will clarify something, and probably I will clarify something for myself, and together we will finally reach the destination of academic proficiency in writing. The workshop or seminar, whatever you call it, is called Prun and Sheik, Strategies for Making Research Writing Crystal Clear. So the main idea is of the seminar is how to make our text as crystal clear as possible, and what it means to make it crystal clear, because it is very subjective. For some people it is crystal clear, so for me as the writer, whatever I write is crystal clear. I understand myself, each word I write, even if I misspell, even if I do not know grammar, I understand myself perfectly well. So my job is to make my writing clear for my readers. That's the main point. And I've prepared some handouts, and all the information that we're going to cover today is in the handouts. All the information you need, even my email address. No, there's no email address. Yeah, but in case you need, okay, to find out some other stuff, okay, you can get in touch with me via Irina Borisovna. So all your questions are welcome. You can interrupt me any moment you wish. I love interruptions. Okay. So, as you know, for a scientist, writing complete English is an act of success or maybe survival, and it is clear. And you have this information written in the handout. And altogether, I have collected 50 writing tips, but today I will focus only on 10 of them, which I find most important. And we will discuss and study and investigate the concept of all these writing tips. And the first is, the first writing tool or writing tip is branch to the right, what it means. So you need to begin your sentence with subjects and verbs, because subject and the subject and the verb are the core, they have the core information of the sentence. So, and I have prepared some cards with a sentence, just one sentence. Let's first practice how well you understand the concept of writing in such a way that the branch of this tree is to the right. Okay, you may do the same. Okay, you will have to give the cards back. Okay. Any color you wish. Okay, green.
Just one.
One. Purple. Okay, purple.
The same.
They are the same, just the same sentence. One sentence for everyone. The idea is this. Okay, we know that we should keep the subject and the verb together, and you should not separate the subject and the verb. Because the subject and the verb, they contain the most important information of the sentence. They contain the meaning of the whole sentence. So try to identify the subject, and then the verb that matches the subject. And then, okay, like this. Just one sentence. You do it like this, okay? Just you find the card which will be the beginning of the sentence and you start from the beginning. Because the moment you have the subject and the verb, you know what the sentence is going to be about. Then, if lucky, we will try to use punctuation. It is easy to identify the subject. Is it? Okay. Just to make it easier for you, I capitalize the first letter of the subject. Well, you will be understood, okay, what you want to say. On Sunday, meeting with the rebels is control. And looted which was closed, burned the station. Okay.
Hundreds, right? As hundreds of residents cheered.
Okay, when this happens.
About the food.
When this happens.
Yes.
Okay.
Dropping champagne on the way.
Turn it over, okay, and there you will find the answer. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that this is the only possible sentence. But the idea is clear. You first need to identify what. Don't read the rest. Not yet. Not yet. No, too late.
Too late.
Too late for the cards. Okay, so you may assemble the cards. Now we go to the text of the handout, and there you have two more sentences. So subject and verb often get separated in prose, usually because we want to tell the reader something about the subject before we get to the verb. When we do this, even for good reasons, we risk confusing the readers. You have two more sentences, three in fact. Try to rewrite the sentences. Okay, turn over. Yes, that's it, okay? So the yellow section goes with the yellow streak, okay? That's easy. Okay, yellow, yellow, green, green, and so on. So you have three more sentences, and I do want you to rewrite the sentences, because in this case you have at present scientists under the influence of blah, 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 blah. And first you need to identify the predicate, the subject, the verb. So the subject and the verb. Put them together, rewriting your sentence. Yellow, yellow. Okay, very good. Well done. Yes. First, you say, at present scientists, that's the subject of the sentence. And where's the predicate? Creating. So the idea is you need to put them together to unite the subject and the verb. Then you need to rewrite the sentence, correcting the sentence in such a way that the verb and its subject are put together. What are the options? Crystallize. So the second sentence is this. Just a sec. A bill that would exclude, and again, the subject, which is a bill, is separated from its verb by a relative clause, yeah? That would exclude tax income from the until you bump into its verb. Where's the verb? Could mean, okay? How many words are put between the subject and the verb? Can you count the number of the words?
1 kilometer.
A kilometer of words, great.
3 kilos.
But that's how we typically write.
Two sentences, for example.
Okay, if you have two sentences, again, you start your sentence, and you should always keep it in mind that the verb, the subject and the verb, they should be together. When you master your writing, there might be some variations, but first you need to master this skill. So subject, verb, like mantra, and you have to repeat this pattern until you get sick and tired of this pattern. Subject and verb, subject and verb. Then, when you know how to write in a more effective way, you can change this pattern. And in this case, what about the bill? So in our research papers, we very often use the word analyze. Analyze as investigate and study. And so while writing this word, we analyze this concept, we analyze this theory. You do not know what actually happened, what in particular you did to analyze this. So is this verb strong? Can you give an example of a strong word? Verb, I mean verb. Yeah. Can you put it in a sentence? We distinguished what?
In the paper, we distinguish between the notion of and the notion of
we distinguished or differentiated or compared or what? What do you mean by distinguished?
We definitely distinguished.
Then another very important rule is this: less is more. Less is more. And one of the rules, I don't remember whether I included this tool or not, is to, so this tip, avoid modifiers. So in academic writing, you need to avoid adjectives and adverbs because they show that you cannot find the right verb or the right noun to express what you feel about your research and what you actually did. So the moment you have a modifier that might indicate that your writing is not mature, not yet. And we go to the writing tool number 2. And there are strong verbs, fuzzy words, and smothered words. Do you know the difference between them? Do you know this terminology? So fuzzy verbs. Fuzzy, and I give this definition in the handout. Fuzzy verbs say that something happened, but not what, like analyze. It is unclear. So you did something, but what you did, probably you cannot formulate for yourself what in reality you did. Because last week I came across a sentence in the research paper. We researched and analyzed. So very confusing. And the thing is, then I started asking myself, do I know the meaning of these two words? So probably when you research, you don't analyze, and vice versa. When you analyze, you do not do any research. It is very confusing. And then I need to ask the author what he or she meant by analyzing and researching. Probably he had some concept of this analysis or research or investigation or whatever. And smothered words, they are verbs, or very often they are smothered, like blurred, like nominalized verbs, like presentation, identification, improvement. Instead of just saying to improve, to present, to indicate, you start using a set of words and you forget this mantra, less is more, less is more. The fewer words you use, the better. But that's not the question of deleting extra words. That's the question of selection. You need to write, to identify the right word for your writing. And I have prepared some examples, some verbs, and your job is to put them in the right column, whether it is a fuzzy word or a strong verb. A lot depends on the discipline, because in some disciplines, this verb, the same verb, may be active, may be very strong. In some other disciplines, it is weak. So, thinking about your discipline, your subject matter, decide whether for your discipline this or that verb is strong or weak. Okay? You have some time just to think it over, and you can communicate with each other. You can discuss this in pairs if you wish. Have you
Birds.
spring at night? Night birds. Okay. So strong verbs. But to start with, what is your field?
I'm a lawyer.
A lawyer. Okay, lawyer. Crucify, I guess, is the strongest verb. Execute. Crucify.
The hit is stronger.
Yes, examine, execute, conduct, diagnose, occur, investigate.
Okay, sorry for interrupting you. When you say conduct, okay, does it have the same meaning as in any other field? Conduct, like carry out, like perform, like make. This?
Yes.
Okay, what happens when you conduct research?
Conduct research.
For example, or it has specific meaning in
It
your
has
field.
specific meaning.
That's why I'm
To
asking.
conduct investigation, to investigate.
The same, to conduct investigation. Why not? To conduct an investigation. Thank you for this example. This is a perfect smothered word. Because instead of saying to investigate, you say to conduct investigation. Why? Do you have two words instead of one? Prune and shake. You need to prune and shake. You prune the big limbs and shake the dead leaves. And then you have the essence.
We have special terms which are used in federal laws in different
Yes.
meanings and
You mean in Russian?
in Russian.
Was we speaking about English?
But I think that maybe in English law they also have
Wordiness? I'm not sure.
Not wordiness, but they do have patterns.
They do have patterns, but okay, when you say we investigated the case, will it make a huge difference if I say we conducted investigation of this case? We investigated the case.
Yeah.
Isn't it clear?
It's maybe documents.
Lawyers are not
documents.
In documents, lawyers.
Lawyers are
They
non-human.
charge for making it clear when they're getting paid for it.
Okay.
First, they're making it as unclear as possible because they invested a lot of money in their education.
Then that's a great tool, okay, to make something vague
Yeah.
or clear. And then you need to know all the tools if you want to, okay, to make something unclear for, not for the clients, for the opponents, okay, for the opposing party. Then you say, we conducted, and you say, oh, what did it? We conducted
We
investigation.
invested a lot of research in conducting the investigation. You know, they
Lot like
link
this.
words like
If there
Like
are
office
some
business.
additional words, adjectives, and so on for the noun for
Mhm.
investigation, then it's correct. It's possible to use.
Yes, if you define investigation, if you need to define what kind of investigation, then you need investigation, because you need an adjective, and then you say thorough investigation, I don't know, okay, something. You need to describe this investigation. You
It's
adding some shades of meaning.
It's usually used for criminal investigation, and the criminal is just
Criminal
It's
investigation. Criminal investigation, yes. Then you need this word investigation, because you say criminal investigation. That's not
As a term.
yes, as a term. Yes, as a term, that's perfect. But conduct is a.
conducted criminal investigation.
We conducted criminal investigation. We investigated the criminal case. Would it be better?
No,
No.
no,
Why not?
because the case may not be opened at the time of the investigation. Because the case is opened after investigation is carried out, is conducted.
Complete.
Yes, at a certain stage of investigation. The case is open.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
maybe not open.
Maybe not open. Okay. If it is an accepted term, then accepted term. Okay, in the field. So for lawyers, you know that it is something set in stone, okay, and you cannot change it, because otherwise your colleagues or lawyers, other lawyers, they will not understand what you mean, yeah? But in other cases, you need to kind of simplify and shorten whatever you want to say, okay? So I would put conduct somewhere between fuzzy and strong, depending on very specific situation, okay? Any other examples of strong verbs? Strong verbs. Implement, okay. Increase, decrease, you know, increase, decrease. Okay, that's easy. You can just watch the process of increasing or decreasing. Accelerate for sure. Accelerate. Improve. Yeah. Yes. Improve.
Establish
To establish what, for example?
procedures.
Establish procedures, yes, and then as a result of this establishment, you have the procedures. Okay, establish. Writing, yes, establish is a strong verb. Knowing, yeah. To plan, yeah, plan. Okay, and what about to plan ahead? Can we use this expression, to plan ahead? We're planning ahead. Huh? Stronger? It is not strong, but is it correct? Then my question is. To plan ahead. Can you plan backwards? Or sideways? So when you plan ahead. You don't need this extra word, okay? Plan, we're planning. Perfect Russian word, we're just planning. So it can take years. So is it strong? To plan. You can sit closer to it. So, to plan, is it a strong verb? Is it strong enough to impress the readers? We're planning, okay, what are you planning?
Doesn't mean we achieve the results.
We're planning, okay, you're planning your research. Why not say just we are researching?
If you're writing a paper, you're talking about results, right? Not
Yes,
about your plans.
not about your plans for sure. Yes, you design the structure, you outline the paper, yeah, you have some sections, and what are you planning then?
Economic plan. Economic plan. And some.
Then I would use this word plan as a noun, and then I would say strategic plan, because that's the strategy you are developing. Then, okay. But in just any other type of research, you say we're planning to do this research, or even a better word, we are trying to investigate. Yeah, it is never clear. Have you finished? Okay, your job, or just you tried and failed, and you try again and again, and you fail again and again. And in this paper we tried to defend our position. So, and it is not clear whether you defended the position or not. So, and again, try is the weakest word of all the possible words. Okay, any other examples of a strong verb? A fact. A fact.
Well, obviously in economics, it's all about affecting one variable.
I know how you can affect. Yes. Us humble people. Yes, a fact. Okay.
What about discuss?
Discuss. Okay. Okay. What?
Discuss this topic.
Mm,
My article, I want to discuss appropriate.
so if you want to discuss, discuss. But if you discuss that, okay, you have the discussion section, and there you just write what you want to say. But if in your paper you write in black and white, we want to discuss, no one prevents you from this. Do it. Just discuss in a different way. Don't tell the readers, attention please, I'm going to discuss this, okay, I will try to persuade you. Just use other words, not discuss, because, or typically we have conclusion, and then you say, in conclusion again. We can conclude.
No, in conclusion, I would like to say.
I would like to say, I would like to say.
I will make an attempt to
Yes, even better. I would make an attempt. Yes, that's it. Do you have any questions as far as this theme goes? Okay. So the page 3, and you have the smothered words, and we discussed this. So instead of making a suggestion, you just suggest, unless you need to define the suggestion, unless you need to describe what kind of suggestion, useful suggestion, or I do not know, you need to check with the collocations dictionary for better solution. To encourage development, just you do what? You develop something. To make a presentation, instead of making a presentation, unless you want to say to make a fabulous presentation, or you may say to present fabulously, probably I would find a better word for presenting. I do not know which one instead of presenting. Perform, yes, perform would be better, yeah, because this is kind of performance, not just a presentation. You don't just present, you perform. That's it. You come to an agreement, you just agree, and so on. That's easy. So cut big and then small, and you have an example of a sentence. The entire reaction sequence takes less than 1 hour to complete. At first sight, you may think that it is perfect, but you have too many words, because the word entire and complete, they mean the same. And then the reaction sequence takes less than 1 hour to complete. If it takes 1 hour, is it complete? Yes. Do you need this word to complete? No. And then you say the reaction sequence takes less than 1 hour, and that's it. Yes. So brevity comes from selection, not compression. You have an example of a passage, a paragraph. It contains, I guess, 118 words. What I want you to do is just cut, and cut until you make it as short as possible. Okay, you have 10 minutes maximum. There might be different versions of this text, different interpretations, and so it depends on how much you want to prune and shake. For sure, we do not need such a word as really, and in lots of software programs and spell checkers, this word is always underlined, drawing our attention to the word, asking again and again, do you really need this word? Do you really need this word? Really? Then when you have the end result, so if this is a result, that's the end. Unless it is the initial result or any other. If you don't specify, then the result is just the result. Instead of a very large number of reactions, you just have numerous reactions. And again, when you consult a good dictionary, thesaurus or collocations or any dictionary you like, then you will probably find a better word for numerous instead of numerous. It is worth emphasizing that. Do we need this? No. Instead of saying, but if you want to draw attention, you say notably, at least notably, or something like this, or interestingly, or importantly, something like just you have one word, and they are called stance words. Worth saying. Why is it worth saying when you are writing? Yes, yeah, exactly. Yes, it is worth emphasizing that. If you want to emphasize, just the whole paper is about this. You write about this. You write about the reactions. Do you need to put extra emphasis? If you do, then you use stance words like interestingly, importantly, notably, surprisingly, or whatever. And again, it depends on the field. For this purpose, you need to use some... So what I usually use, they are concordance programs, and I prepare a concordance program of the vocabulary driven from my field of research. And then I know, for example, that word specifically is never used, for example, or surprisingly is used very often. And then I have my own vocabulary glossary of terminology, and then I can select the right word for my discipline. So in your case, I do not know if it is widely used, I mean, the word like notably or interestingly or something. You just need to check this. And then, as it appears to be produced, do we need all these phrases? No. Do not represent a closed system. Produced out of thin air, okay. In reality, do we need this word in reality? Probably, but we have a chemist. Luba. Is it important? In reality, okay. I don't think that we need this word in reality, because usually we should ask ourselves a question as opposed to what? Unreality. So, in reality, where else? Okay, that's okay. Very important observation. When you say, yeah, if you model, yes, this situation, then you find it important, and it should be noted for sure. For example, I drive to work. Will I say I drive my car to work? What else can I drive if it's not a train? So I can drive a train and a car. If I don't specify, so I don't have a car, I drive a train to work. Then I say I drive to work, and that's clear that I drive my car. I don't need to specify what I drive, because it is obvious. What else can I drive if not a car? You ride a bicycle, you never drive a bicycle. Okay, when you have this position, you ride. Then you have an engine and you drive. So you can drive a train or a car. And then you will specify, or like invisible to the eye. Do you need this invisible to the eye? Can you say invisible to the leg? No, but you may have some equipment. And then microscope, for example. It is invisible even for a very powerful microscope. Then you will specify this. In the same case, you will have a model situation. So when you're modeling something, then you will write about this. You will not write about reality. It is created from other chemical species within the cell, but we have chosen here. Do you need to say where? Here in our lab or in this paper? If you say we have chosen, it is clear that you have chosen something where you are. And you don't need here not to model at such a fine level of detail. Do you need at such a fine level of detail? You may say, how can you? Just in detail or in much detail. In any case, you need to cut, and cut. One detail not included, again, here. Do we need here? When you say not included, you may write in our paper, but if it is your paper, it is within the paper and it is obvious. And then you don't need this long phrase in bold, is that reversible nature of the binding of RNAP, am I right?
Just
To the promoter region.
just RNAP.
RNAP, yeah? Mm-hmm. And again, you don't need the other phrase. that these two reactions form a simple linear chain whereby the product of the first fraction is the reactant for the second of a short break, okay? A short break. A short break. A 5-minute break will do, okay? So as I said, we have to be very careful with modifiers, in particular adjectives and adverbs. And as you know, adjectives, they modify nouns, and adverbs modify verbs. However, good words do not need any modifying. And you have some examples from real academic texts, and I want you to, again, cut, delete whatever word you find redundant in this case. So we have just discussed the phrase invisible to the eye. You just write just invisible, yeah? Unless it is invisible to a very powerful microscope, for example, then you will specify this. So you have these examples. Delete the words that you do not need. Okay. So, we have just invisible instead of invisible to the eye. You delete to the eye. Then, if it is a fact, it is always true. Just the fact. The field of physics becomes just physics, unless it is nuclear physics or you specify the field of physics, yeah. The Prime Minister's personal physician, can it be impersonal? No, just Prime Minister's physician. Each and every one. Each or every, depending on what you want to say. First and foremost, our favorite one. First and foremost. Just first. Enough. Do you need first and foremost? Never. Because first is always first. Full and complete. Either complete or full, again, depending on your research. Another favorite, last but not the least, just last. Absolutely certain. We're absolutely certain. You're just certain. If you are certain, you are certain. You cannot be partially certain. Then you are not certain. Advanced planning never happens, just planning. End product. If it is product, it is just product. End result. Just result. Erupt violently. That's a modifier that you do not need because when it erupts violently. It cannot erupt quietly. Yeah, timidly. Final outcome. Just outcome. Future plans. They can't be past plans. Mutual cooperation is just cooperation. Orbit around, my favorite one. Because orbit means just to go around, okay? Orbit around. In past history, it is just history. Regular routine, routine is something regular that happens daily, for example. Sudden impulse. On sudden impulse, yeah. Just impulse. Unsolved mystery, just mystery, because if it is mystery, it is unsolved. And merged together, like join together, just make, this phrase doesn't make any sense, just merge. So these are some targets for cut. Adverbs that intensify rather than modify. Just, certainly, entirely, extremely, completely, exactly. Prepositional phrases that repeat the obvious in the story, in the article, in our article. You are writing your article, you are presenting your research in this paper, and you don't need to write again and again on every page of your research paper that in this article, for those who forget, we are trying to persuade you that the result is valid. And phrases that grow on verbs. Seems to, tends to, should, have to, tries, and so on. These are the words that should be deleted. Then writing tool 4, prefer simple to technical. And that's the question of jargon, okay? Whether you should use jargon words or not. Do you need jargon or field specific terminology? This is my question before we start doing this exercise. Do we need jargon or not? Since I've been working at Fistech for 30 years, and my students, they are too arrogant, I'd say, and they look down on all of us, and they say, yeah, we use terminology, very specific terminology, and we use jargon words because we don't want you humble people know. Yes, what we're writing about, because that's none of your business, okay? You will never understand anything about superconductivity, superfluidity, and so on. But this is all wrong. Why is it wrong? Because research these days has wider audience. In the first place, you need to attract investors, and investors, they might not know your very specific terminology. Then you might want to attract students. They haven't decided yet in what field they want to specify. They want to major, they want to work. And if they don't understand a word in your very sophisticated paper, how will they know that they need to enter this field? It doesn't mean that you should avoid terminology. It's impossible because that's part of your vocabulary. But you have to be very, very careful whether to use heavy, strong words, words that only very narrow field of researchers, a very narrow circle of researchers understand or not. And that's an example. I've decided to prepare some English proverbs and their jargon version. For example, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Try to find the same proverb written in, I'd say, heavy English with a lot of jargon words, terminology, medical terminology, Latin words. So match the English proverb with the with the definition. Its definition is we're going further, and that's writing to 5 parallel lines, because in English you need to always think about the rule of parallelism. And I guess Irina Borisovna knows better Russian than me. I mean, in terms of grammar and lexicology or whatever. So, do we have parallel construction in Russian? Do we?
Definitely. We have everything.
Everything the same. Okay, everything the same. So we say пришел, увидел, победил. Yeah, and we never say пришел, ходил. Я держал победу. Yeah, we never say that. We say пришел, увидел, победил. So that's about parallel constructions. Or I came, I saw, I conquered. Or I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. These are parallel constructions. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Now I want you to review the following. Metal, alloy, and titanium. Is it right or wrong? So if it is wrong, try to correct this. So you have metal, you have alloy, and you have titanium. And you have titanium. No, that's wrong. You have metal, you have alloy, 2 metals, so 3 metals together, and you have... Or you have aluminium. Yes, titanium is metal. Yeah, and you give it a name. Yeah, titanium. You name this metal. You say titanium, aluminium, and then any other metal, gold, and gold. Okay. Or when you say metal, alloy, and then probably steel would go. Metal, alloy, and steel. Yes. So, but it is no. No, alloy is alloy. Steel is different from alloy. And when you have alloy, you have aluminium and, for example, metal and metal. That's different. So metal, alloy, steel, or titanium, gold, silver. Okay, like this. 2 apples, 6 oranges, and 3 bananas. What's wrong with this? Yes, in letters. Either you write in letters 2 apples, 6 in letters, and then 3 bananas, or you have 2 apples, 3 oranges, 6 oranges, and 3 bananas, exactly. What about the next, the longer phrase? By overcoming our fears, we grow in strength, and we experience intense and beautiful emotions. Rewrite in such a way that you have a parallel construction, kind of unity. So years and years ago, probably 10 years ago, psycholinguists decided to conduct research. Conduct research. They decided to find out what makes us Russians. No, I'm not saying this. So they decided to find out what makes us Russian, what Anglo-Saxon, what makes Anglo-Saxon, and so on. French people. So, and then you will tell me about the Russian mentality, for example. What is Russian mentality? We're speaking about passive voice, no diversification.
Avoid responsibility.
How do you know? So I never avoid responsibility, though I'm Russian.
I mean mentality, not you.
On our results that we do.
I do.
Yeah, so.
Do you? As a lawyer, do you pay attention to the result?
Sometimes.
No,
I mean, not the result, I mean,
It depends.
who did this? So, we just did it. I don't want to pay somebody's attention that it was my job, so because I and somebody else. Yeah.
So to cut a long story short, I will tell you. They conducted massive research. That's why I use conducted, because I want to use massive research. And they found out that all the languages that they investigated had a core. Okay? And in this core, there are only 75 words that never change over centuries. And this core identifies us as a nation. Do you want to know the words? And these words, they are ranked. The most important, the least important of 75 words. Okay? So we do. Give us the list. Oh, give. Deliver. Because I need to remember the word. So the idea is this. The English, Anglo-Saxon, okay, and Russians. What is the most important word in the English-speaking world for native speakers of English? The most important word? No. So never forget that this word and this primary position has never changed over centuries.
I and why?
Me. That's why they're so competitive. That's why they are so crazy about intellectual property. They say, it is mine. It is my word. It is my research. It is my house. It is my dog. Everything is mine. And they love to compete. Okay? And Russians. What is our favorite word? The main word. It has never changed. Never changed, never. It started centuries ago, before the revolution. We, in we you have I. You and I, we, no. Our again, me, no me. We, no. Together, no. You use this word daily, every That is why we love passive voice so much. Because this word, you want to know.
Nizia.
And this word tells a lot about us as a nation. And this word is человек. Человек. Who? Человек.
Не менялся.
Да. Человек. Человек.
Человек не менялся. Древнерусский.
Yeah.
Человек. Who's that? Do you know this person? Huh? No?
Just
Somebody. Unidentified flying object. UFO. No us, no we, no me, no I, no you. And of all the words, we have such words as talk and think. So we love talking and thinking about somebody. And just for the sake of entertaining you, the seventh word, the seventh in the list, the seventh, is the word durak. Because for us it is a concept. Durak is never stupid. So of all the sons, okay, he's the cleverest. So we love passive voice, we avoid responsibility because somebody does this. Somebody. Подписали, решили, обсудили. And that is why in our research papers we very often write, the research was done. Magic. Who did that?
I don't agree. There is a rule.
You may agree. No.
When I write the summary, they rewrote in passive voice.
Which
in
is
Russian.
wrong.
It is wrong, but
I'm not
it's a
speaking
rule.
about Russian. So I know little about my language. So, but in English you need to write in the active voice. So, and if you speak about a research paper which is written in the notorious IMRED format, so these are the two sections, methodology and results, where you can use passive voice. Because then it's not important who in particular measured something, or who cut something, or who weighed something. But in the introduction and discussion in the abstract, you write about your research. And then you use active voice. And what's more, in 2005, a Spanish researcher analyzed using confidence programs more than 5 million research papers, and she found out that native speakers of English using software technology, that's how she proved the validity of her research, that native speakers of English, they use I and we and active voice very often, and non-native speakers of English avoid active voice and pronouns I and we, because they think that it is, they regard this as professional impurity or kind of modesty or whatever. And even if this paper written by one author, he or she always writes we, who are this? And speaking about our language and mathematical problem. When I talk to my friends who are not Russians, and I say, I will say this in Russian because that's a Russian example. Мы с подругой пошли в кино. How many people went to the cinema?
They don't understand.
They never understand. They say, who else? I say, мы с подругой. Мы
We.
с подругой. So
And a
at
friend.
least 3. When you
Yeah.
go to your doctor, so to get some injection or something, yeah, medical checkup, yeah. Мы сейчас посмотрим с вами. Мы сейчас укольчик сделаем.
Нет, ну мама же, все говорят, мы покушали.
Which is wrong.
Ну, это...
I was
Oh,
once
but that's good.
interrupted by the doctor when I said something like this with my child. She said, "Not you, mother, it's him." Yeah, distinguish.
And that's how we write. And then it becomes vague and obscure, and it is not clear. Din 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 was developed. Why not write, we developed this, if you like this verb, develop. We developed this methodology, all right? If you're too modest, you may say, our research shows, or this research, their research shows that. And almost all software programs, spell checkers, they underline passive voice and say, revise, 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 because style is wrong. Because that's against our reading. We read in this way, and when you have a sentence in passive voice, you have to go backwards and reread. These are some of the examples. For example, excellent questions were asked by the participants. Typical Russian sentence. Excellent questions were asked by participants. Why don't say participants ask excellent questions? The sentence is shorter for sure, and less is more. And then you have three examples. Identify passive voice and rewrite the sentences using active voice. So the experimental data are presented in table 1. Why not write table 1 represents or presents?
But this is what Russian people write in English. Because in our language, table cannot represent itself. It's
Yes.
not an active verb.
I know. The article,
This is where
the article argues.
has an explanation.
How can an article argue?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
20th
Or the
century soul.
Yes.
But then we have, things to avoid this.
Yeah.
We translate them differently.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Just
We
a
make
quick
them
translation.
like обстоятельства.
Yeah.
All this, and this is because like actual division of the sentence. This is only because of that. Because we can put any parts of our sentence in any place we want.
Yes, and-
English cannot.
Cannot, because we have endings and so on. Yeah. And table 1 represents. That's perfect example. It is short and it is clear, and that's English. Okay. And then you may not even understand the meaning of all the words in the second sentence, which is too long in the first place, and then you say the coefficient, and then 2 lines of some unknown text has been approximately determined. Real text, published approximately determined.
And it's not determined.
Not determined.
Yeah. Well, no. It can be determined with statistical error. Some.
Approximately. Yes.
Yeah. When you feel the error.
No, that's not about statistics. That's about metallurgy or something like this. Okay, even approximately.
Approximate
But-
estimated.
Okay, even this. Okay, keep approximately if necessary. But has been determined. Why do you put this at the very end of your sentence? And when you finally reach the end of the sentence, you forget the beginning. You need to reread. What did they determine? And then you go backwards. Oh, the coefficient. That's clear. Why not just write, we determine the coefficient, we approximately determine the coefficient. And that's it.
To some extent, determined.
To some extent, somehow we try to approximately determine the coefficient of something. We still don't know what. That's how we write. And the next sentence, the next example.
I have not investigated yet. All the rest.
Yes, has not been investigated. Yes, again, we started with this subject and verb together. If you don't want to show off, if you don't want to be to develop your writer's voice, you may say the research, somehow avoiding this. Is this clear?
Yes.
Good. Writing tool 7, paragraphs. Another key issue. So the paragraph is essentially a unit of thought, not of length. The question is, how long should your paragraphs be? Should they be long or short? Are there any rules in terms of the length of a paragraph? Or we should not care? Why should we? We're Russians. We love writing long sentences and extremely long paragraphs. Is it good or bad? It is bad. Probably. Probably not. Okay, this is my question. Why should our paragraphs be reasonably short? By reasonably, I mean, so you may have a paragraph that consists of 2, 3, 4 sentences. Is it okay or not? Or 10? Who decides? One paragraph, one idea, that's good. But if my idea is too sophisticated and it keeps winding and I develop it and it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and my paragraph grows.
Subdivide your idea for little different ideas.
Sub-paragraphs?
Yes, in the word or a separate paragraph to separate little idea, a little piece of your big idea. Composition, main composition.
The main composition, okay. So that's the unit of thought in the first place, a unit of thought. So one thought, one paragraph. In our language, we don't think much of a paragraph, so we don't focus on this unit of thought, okay? We just keep writing and they say, it's too long, and we start just another paragraph, typically, yeah? And it's not a bother at all. But in English they say that paragraph gives your reader a rest, some rest. Because imagine yourself just, you are comfortably sitting in an easy armchair and sipping coffee, reading a book. And you say, okay, when the paragraph is over, I will have another cup of coffee or just I will smoke or something, I do not know, yeah? And it's endless. And you keep reading and reading and reading and reading and reading, which is not fair. And that is why they say paragraphs, okay, one thought, one paragraph, and paragraphs give us some rest. So they have to be of approximately similar length, and this length is about 10-12 sentences, which is not a rule, because it all depends on how sophisticated, how difficult, how complex your thought is. Or probably you may have a paragraph that consists of 1 or 2 sentences, why not? But we should never forget that there should be the so-called topic sentence. So, and the topic sentence is the sentence that tells the reader what the paragraph is going to be about. Yeah, it may be at the very beginning of the paragraph. It may be concluding the paragraph. It may be in the middle of the paragraph. It doesn't matter where. But if your paragraph is well written, in accordance with all the rules, then you may read very fast. So reading the first line of each paragraph, and that's how you just read the whole text, just the first sentence of each paragraph, and then you grasp the meaning of the whole idea of writing. I prepared a paragraph, and what I suggest is dividing it into 2 or 3 paragraphs. So read this long paragraph. It's not that long, but let's suppose that it is too long. But it really contains several thoughts. divide this paragraph into as many smaller paragraphs as you consider relevant for this particular idea, thought.
Here is this. Okay, when we start delivering this kind of lectures about academic writing, in fact, I'm speaking about research writing rather than academic writing, because that's not about essay writing. And the style is a bit different from what we teach them. We never teach them how to write research papers. We very seldom teach them how to write you see, Russian. I'm Russian. Who are we? Me. Very seldom I teach them writing, because in the curriculum and the syllabus we don't have this discipline. And another job of mine is Russian State Social University, Russian State Social University, if I'm not mistaken, where I'm head of English Philology department, and we have just one course, academic writing, which lasts half a semester. What can I teach? So within one semester, nothing. But I can give them an idea of what it is, okay? What they should remember while starting to write or while reading academic essays, at least essays, not research papers. Yeah. I know it's chalk and cheese, like chalk and cheese, but the day will certainly come when this discipline will be mandatory, will be compulsory for all universities, like in most American universities where they have first-year writing course for everyone, regardless of whether they are native speakers of English, non-native speakers of English. They cannot complete their course of education unless they have this first-year writing. That's it. Finally, my favorite topic, my favorite one, noun phrases, noun phrase or noun chains. So that's okay if you know the language, and even knowing the language, you may find it difficult to decompose, to unpack all these noun phrases. So it's okay when you have baseball game ticket. That's clear. Ticket for a baseball game. Ticket for a baseball game or ticket to a baseball game. Then this question arises. When you start decomposing this phrase, you need to know what preposition you should use. For. Yeah, for. But you need to check each time. Then you say baseball game ticket price. It's just noun phrase. That's a chain of nouns. And then, for some purposes, you need to unpack this noun phrase. And they say price. Can you go backwards? Price of the ticket for the baseball, and then you need to add the baseball game. But then you have another noun, which is also a noun, baseball game ticket price increase. And again, you need to start with increase. Oh, well, yes. You can vary saying increase in, which is possible, an increase in the price for the ticket or of the ticket for the baseball game. But then you have another noun, baseball game ticket price increase proposal. This is very typical of English. They love putting all these nouns like a train all together. They compress the language in this way. Can you decompose this one? You have to, somehow. You have to. A proposal to increase, then you make it a verb conversion. A proposal to increase
the price of the ticket for the baseball game. Okay, good. Now you have some phrases. Send, transfer, mitigation efforts. What can be done? In some cases, you may use the so-called word formation technique, compression. You know, compression, you use hyphen, okay? You hyphenize. Sometimes you put words together, and there's no rule. You need to check with a dictionary, because workforce, in some dictionaries, workforce is written as one word. In other dictionaries, it is hyphenized. In some other dictionaries, you have two words. No rules. No rules. Okay. Do the job, because when you start reading and you bump into a noun, you think it is a noun, but in fact it is an adjective, and you are at a loss. You don't know what to do. You cannot read. You don't understand the word. So you know each word, but you cannot read because you do not know the structure of the sentence. Rewrite all the phrases. Send, transfer, mitigation efforts. What's this? How can you rewrite them? So when you have class action complaint, what about class action complaint? Complaint against class action? Huh? Yes, a complaint against actions in class or class actions. Class action.
No, it's a complaint of a group of people.
Complaint of a group of people. So class action with hyphen complaint. Class hyphen action.
Yes.
Complaint. That's how you can improve this. Make it more understandable. That's what I mean. Дефис там будет? Дефицит? Ставим дефис? How do you write this? Групповой иск? Class action complaint. Yes, that's I understand, but how can you improve the visibility of this phrase? Then thank you for being with me. Thank you for coming. I know how difficult it is after work. It is, okay. Can you please? Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. We'll be looking forward to seeing you again and again in the stuffy room.
So, and next time we start with writing tool 10.
Yes.